CSAP, Sistemas Aplicativos, presenta un nuevo episodio de su podcast Cyber Caffeine, un espacio para hablar sobre ciberseguridad, con invitados y profesionales destacados del sector. Comenzamos.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Cyber Caffeine podcast. My name is Derek Olson. I'm the director of the CERT at CISUP. We're in some exciting times in the cybersecurity timeline. We are seeing some transformation of security moving from a utility to a business enablement. Similarly, this is the same path that we've seen in history that IT traveled down, but this is new for a new territory for cybersecurity. So, in that business enablement, computer emergency response teams, or CERT teams, are becoming a very strategic part of day-to-day operations. Jumping in, managing, controlling end-to-end emergency response for cybersecurity incidents is more and more critical, especially in light of new legislation across the world, new privacy regulations, etc. CERT teams are adapting and progressing to meet this changing landscape, which includes the compliance requirements, regulations, while combating ultra-skilled adversarial threats. I'm pleased today to have a team of experienced practitioners to discuss the key components and considerations of what a next-generation CERT team looks like. So, joining us today, we have Daniel Alvarez, who's the CERT operations manager at CISUP. We have Julio Sosa, the SOC operations manager. Jorge Utrer, the director of digital forensics and incident response. Yasmin Chavez, manager of cyber threat intelligence services. And Esmeralda Lara, SOC team leader and Diego Melendez, an additional SOC team leader. Welcome, everybody.
All right. Good morning, Derek. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
So historically, CERT operations incorporated things that were built on a foundation of basically service desk technology. That service desk technology was open a ticket, do stuff, pass another task on to somebody because it was an independent function. Different technologies that didn't work in concert with each other. And then the overall result was hopefully we got things right. Right? Those independent technologies basically utilized some intelligence, but it was consumed and not produced. So when we start looking at what a next generation CERT team is, we start talking next generation for everything that's built or built into it. And what that really means is that next generation CERT is built on process, right? Not just independent functions, independent items, but built on process, and those processes that are linked together by not only skilled practitioners, but the technology that's in them, right? The second item in the new next generation CERT is intelligence, right? Intelligence is feeding everything that is in that process, right? Threat focus is threats are focused now, not just on alerts, but they're actually defined based upon the organization that we're working with. They're detailed. They drive all of the automation that we are talking about in these organizations, right? And that brings us to automation. I mean, security orchestration and automation and response is a very key aspect of this, but we cannot get an automated response if we don't have the intelligence feeding it. Right? So when we start looking at all these different areas that are feeding here. The process, the foundation of intelligence driven by automation. We also have to continue to think about the growth. And when we talk about growth in the CERT, or computer emergency response means, we're not just talking about how fast we can get bigger, but how fast we can get better through technology and through skilled training, so that our teams are actually learning and growing for that next generation and the generation after. Okay. So that allows us to be able to then identify what we're doing in terms of finding talent. Our talent, not only the talent that we have from an employee standpoint currently, but in the future, needs to be adaptable, needs to be trained, and needs to grow through through new things that are coming out, innovation that's happening, things like generative AI, things like machine learning, etc. So the first thing we want to do is, when we talk about what the next generation CERT looks like and how it's built, we want to focus on intelligence. So Jasmine Chavez has been with CISAP for multiple years now, and she's been the manager of the Cyber Threat Intelligence Service for CISAP. Jasmine, I'm curious, how do you think threat intelligence is driving the next generation CERT, in your opinion?
Yeah, first of all, Derek, it's important to highlight that intelligence is one of the CERT components that has been recently recognized by the Security Society as one of the key necessities for a computer emergency response team. Simple words, well, threat intelligence is a process of gathering, analyzing, interpreting, and dissemination of information about potential or current cyber threats that an organization may face. This kind of information is useful because it enables the cybersecurity teams to respond in a proactive way, minimizing the potential damage and disruption of an organization's operation. I would say that building effective threat intelligence, is what will allow organizations to build a robust security posture by acting in a proactive and preventive way. And that's the focus of what we are doing right now, trying to get this kind of intelligence to feed our CERT and to get those results as expected for the organizations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You mentioned the word proactive, and it makes me curious, Julios, from what Jasmine mentioned in the proactive and how intelligence is driving a proactive response, how is that affecting the SOC teams? How is threat intelligence driving your proactive response to some of the things that you do?
Yeah, since the responsibility of the SOC is to protect the organization from cyber attacks and data breaches, threat intelligence streamlines and amplifies SOC efforts, ensuring an accelerated risk reduction. For example, currently SOC staff has to work on mitigating a great quantity of cyber attacks. This means responding to countless security alerts every day. Therefore, make an analysis, detection, and response to each threat becomes a complex task to execute. Similarly, manually checking each threat detection leaves less time for SOC teams to countercheck every incoming alert. On the other hand, if we integrate into our SOC processes the threat intelligence, we come with enough insight into emergency cyber attacks. This is working exclusively with previously collected data, and then this is enabled to focus in threats and not in alerts. Some examples of the information that we gain from the threat intelligence into the SOC processes are Number 1, reputational information. Having such insights allows SOC analysts to block these domain names and IP addresses, ensuring robust network security for the organization. Other example may be information on rising phishing attacks. Threat intelligence regarding phishing attacks reveals new phishing attack vectors and recent targets. SOC analysts can use such information to engage relevant security measures, such as blocking phishing URLs and filtering phishing email accounts. Number 3 may be command and control information. Information about command and control domains offer a list of no-botnet control panels. It is allow analysts to have better insight into the working and execution methods of these attacks. Insight on malware and ransomware attack is other example. Along with that, the intelligence received about emergency malware can help them build a better defense against these threats. And finally, probably DDoS and botnet activity. The snaky nature of these attacks makes them hard to detect. Intelligence about them can give SOC teams the ability to mitigate these threats.
And thank you, Julio. I mean, I think that there's a lot of great points that you have in there. And when I think about the SOC standpoint, SOC sits more on the identification of threats and using threat intelligence when they happen, right? So when we start thinking about CERT end-to-end, we start thinking about the digital forensics and the incident response process. And when I think about that, I think, DFI has traditionally been a consumer of intelligence. So I wanted to ask you, Jorge, do you see a transition from DFIR strictly being a consumer of threat intelligence, meaning that after something bad happens doing the research? Or do you feel like DFIR is becoming more and more of a provider of threat intelligence as well?
Oh, thank you, Derek. Yes, I think both. DFIR can now be considered as the new frontier of cybersecurity. DFIR, which stands for Digital Forensic and Incident Response, is a field within cybersecurity that focuses on identification, investigation, and remediation of cyber attacks. Due to the proliferation of endpoints and escalation of cybersecurity attacks in general, DFIR has become a central capability within the organizations or service providers as a security strategy and threat hunting capabilities. The shift to the cloud, as well as the acceleration of remote-based work, has further heightened the need for organizations to ensure protection from a wide variety of threats across all devices that are connected to the network. So next gen, we do rely on new AI analytic tools. There are no boundaries for what DFIR can do today. Threat intel is today an intrinsic part of DFIR and cannot and should not be treated as a separate thing. In my experience, we always go together with threat intelligence in any incident we attend. So it's time to reassess what I and we used to think about digital forensics. It's no longer just a post-mortem investigation, no longer something to just generate legal reports or review an individual hard drives. It's now a daily function, a proactive, always-on capability every business needs. So it has been a fully reborn as next-gen DFIR. Who knows? The next name for DFIR could be DFIR IT with threat intelligence there. Who knows? Anyway, the landscape is rapidly evolving. the bad guys are rapidly evolving, they are using also AI to attack us. So in short, we are intelligence providers and users both at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. So you'd mentioned AI in there a couple times, so that makes me start to think about innovation, right? The innovation is occurring at such a rapid pace from the threat adversaries that the next generation CERT needs to also be utilizing innovation as a, launching board for protecting and recovering from, preventing and recovering in the event of any incidents. So when I start thinking about innovation, Danny, or Daniel Alvarez, I start thinking about, how can an organization apply innovation to drive their emergency response, even from the point of discovery to the point of, remediation. So, do you have a couple thoughts on, what organizations can focus on?
Good morning again, guys. Yes, Derek, thank you for introducing me for the topics. I sure think there are at least two things that we need to cover when we talk about innovation. The first of them, the first driver, I think we should talk about is people. When we take a look on the new hires that we contract to be on our team, we want to have a look on their sites in order to confirm we can establish an innovative mindset on side. Escalation in numbers of cybersecurity incidents has not decreased. Actually, we have to appropriately take a look on how we conceptualize cybersecurity and adopt a mindset of change, moving from human as a problem to human as a solution cybersecurity mindset. We have to think about how to do things better. There's some books which actually suggest how to convert the mindset to think like a hacker in order to defend companies. And always you have to look for growth. You have to always be curious about things and being constant need for knowledge. Those are things that we usually look for, and we encourage people when they join our teams to read a lot. We also look for, when we talk about innovative mindset, we also want to have people that can have a communicative mindset. That's something we need in terms of communication, because most of the information technology professionals don't look to talk to people. That's something we would usually hear from. So there are some books that also cover this topic about innovation and that innovative mindset that we can establish in our teams. There are some advices, and I would like to talk about them. They are being open to change. There is something which is called the Kubler-Ross change curve, and it states how we invest energy when we face a change and how we adopt it. So that curve begins by denial. We usually face denial when we need to look for changes. Then we defend against that change. Then we can enter into the depression phase. But at the end, if we work on them, we get till the final stage, which is the acceptance. So that's something we need to work in order to be fast going from the denial phase to the acceptance one. That's in regards to being open to change. The other topic which is interesting to discuss is embracing creativity. Companies are being encouraged to have management processes for for creativity, but they don't have to be policy driven, but trying to encourage to have innovation as art into their teams. The next thing to discuss is we read on those books that they encourage companies to allow their people to think big, being analytical, being having that spirit of fantasy, that diverse organizational culture, which can combine the skills that they have and their capabilities for big thinking as a group, and show courage, embrace new ideas for how to do things better. And last but not least, think and act fast. Fast-moving process to keep up with the outside change that we see every day. That's for innovation in people. And the other driver that we usually face and that we need to discuss is technology. Actually, technology is actually moving and leading companies to new stuff. And consultants and companies, big companies, usually demand that we move fast to adopt new technologies. We now hear about XDR. We usually hear about MDR. Now we are seeing next generation SIMs, which is a term that we have adopted several years ago. So we need to keep up with those trends and adopt those cutting edge solutions very fast. Those are my thoughts about it.
Well, thank you. You brought up a lot of good things, and you mentioned some of the innovative tools. I'm curious, just thinking about from a CERT standpoint and an incident standpoint, how some of those innovative tool sets and products and services that are out there, how each specific area that we're talking to you guys with here today, how those are affected. So from a SOC standpoint, Julio, how is technology changing what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, from my perspective, talking about change or an innovation within the SOC is thinking about machine learning and artificial intelligence. All of this managed by automation and orchestration. These components of innovation now allow us to have context of all threats in milliseconds and provide analysts with a history of the behavior of these threats, identifying on which we must take action. As analysts, we will not be able to measure the deviation of a behavior and take action based on the information provided by machine learning. This results in a far more consistent threat monitoring method. One more thing, friends, about this innovation is that they don't take coffee breaks and they work on weekends too. Therefore, today as a single analyst can make many transactions in a day with artificial intelligence as a helper. That's it, Derek.
Thank you, Julio. I think I know that there's a lot of innovation happening within the SOC standpoint, and you mentioned AI and machine learning and the ability to utilize those tools and detection. So from a response standpoint, maybe are things a little bit different, Jorge, in the digital forensics and incident response team? And in terms of innovation, what are some of the things that you're seeing that is driving innovation?
Thanks, Derek. Next gen means cybersecurity solutions that use real-time predictive methods like machine learning and artificial intelligence, as already mentioned, which drives to behavioral analytics to increase prevention, efficacy, and speed. In some cases, the term extends to automated threat detection and response capabilities. I myself, I'm still very afraid of that, but it is coming. Automatic response capabilities. Every major government and companies is doing something in that direction. So now we do rely on machine learning and AI. And as mentioned before, in the next gen SOC, there are no clear boundaries between digital forensics, threat intelligence, and incident response. Saying that, I would say that we need to mention that this rapid evolving threat landscape calls for the next generation also of information security professionals who need to have strong technical and communication skills. These individuals should take also a business management approach to handling incidents. Not only analyze problems, but also make informed decisions, as I see it. And of course, there comes the intelligence part too, as discussed before. So what do we need in order to be next generation skills managers? Is to be constantly engaged in learning. That would be my comment on that.
Thank you, Jorge. You had mentioned a couple things in there that piqued my interest. So from an automated response standpoint, that's fantastic. And I haven't been in this industry for 25 years or so. You're only as good as the information that you have, right? And as we move into this next generation CERT, which includes the SOC, we're getting more and more into the ability of monitoring everything, right? Getting alerts from anything that's connected. But our alerts are only as good as the intelligence that we have on those devices and the threats that are there for them. So, Jasmine, how is cyber threat dealing with innovation in its industry?
Sure. When we talk about innovation, we need to look forward on how world is moving. In my opinion, automation and artificial intelligence, as my colleagues mentioned, are one of the two main aspects that leads the best way to make threat intelligence. At the end of July, I read an article that Forbes published. If someone wants to look for that article, was called "Minimizing the Potential Damage and Disruption of an Organization Operations." Basically, it says that artificial intelligence will reduce the human interaction and allow analysts to focus on what needs manual validation. And what is known is that since Web 2.0 was released, that is a place where the user can also interact and publish information in the web. The amount of information in the internet is simply huge. Part of innovation is identify those sources and tools that are trustable and which are going to automate the analysis and response process. And that's what we are doing. Right now we are looking for those sources carefully to have the right information and to select those tools that could help us with the purpose of generate value through the results that our analysts will share with our clients based upon on what they are getting and what their skills have, so they can develop a good delivery to our clients and also to our other departments, as is SOC and DFIR.
No, thank you. So you'd mentioned that analyst review, right? So regardless of the technological innovations that are out there, and the technological innovations allow us to more proactively respond to things that are discovered, identify new threats. There's still this need for talented or trained personnel. So when we get to the next pillar of what we call growth, the next generation SOC, one of the things that the industry is seeing right now, and there's plenty of studies out there, is a shortage of trained personnel. For example, back in 2022, there was a workforce study done by ISC Squared that highlighted the value of and calculated the global workforce estimate in the gap in the cybersecurity field. Even despite adding almost 500,000 jobs, the workforce is still at a $3.4 million person shortage in terms of cybersecurity workers. That's globally, and that's a lot. So when we start to think about what the next generation CERT stands for and the requirements for filling that global gap in trained personnel, I think of what are we doing as an industry? But I'm going to ask Danny. Danny, what is the strategy that CISAP has right now, and how is that leading to trained personnel for not just CISAP but for the entire industry?
Well, yeah, it's actually a need that we cannot negate, as you said, that shortage of cybersecurity individuals. And CSAP has actually created a plan several years ago because, as you said, industry demands cybersecurity talented people in several business verticals. And that demand requires specialization. In that matter, this organization, CSAP, took a look over the gap in the market. And so for more than 5 years, it has prepared professionals through an institution called Information Risk and Security Institute. And this organization, which is part of CSAP, has been dealing with this need. And it has been serving the community by introducing graduates every year, so they help securing the society. And what I mean introducing graduates, ERC provides a scholarship program for people who just still studying at school, and they get a degree in cybersecurity free of charge. So this is something CSAP has been doing through ERC for more than 5 years ago in order to help, as I said, securing the society, helping the community.
And I think that's fantastic. But I do want to call out the fact that, even though this is a CSAP academy and a CSAP generated academy, CSAP's just not benefiting from the graduates of this institute. We are doing this in the manner in which we believe that it is a benefit to all of the cybersecurity industry, whether it be our customers, our partners, even our competitors. We feel that it is going to enable the future generations to be more cybersecurity ready, and hopefully reduce that gap of 3.4 million in a little better, or a little easier fashion. So, ERC Academy, it's fantastic. Esme, how was that academy and some of the other things that you're doing affecting your SOC operations?
Yeah, only to give a little bit of information, I started the training 5 years ago with the academy. And it was really helpful for me because it is not the same that you learn on college, on courses, because we have the opportunity to learn with our teachers some use cases in real life and how we can go more in deeper in the real world, not only like in paper. So that gives us a lot of information for us to be prepared for the cybersecurity in general and also to have the information correctly. Because sometimes when you're trying to looking for an specialization, you have in the cybersecurity and the technology world a lot of different roadmap that you can follow. So in this case, I learned a lot of techniques, a lot of information, and also not only dedicated to a specific area. So for the SOC standpoint, because it also after the academy, my first job in in cybersecurity was on the SOC helped me a lot on the analysis part, on to identify the root cases of the events, and also helped me to have a picture of all the cybersecurity and not only one part. That maybe this is one problem when we are learning and we are introducing, because we know that we have a lot of things on the scope and on the picture, not only that part. So that helped me a lot to determine that and to introducing that to as a part of my job. And also this is something that the academy has been follow uh, to determine this. So on the such standpoint, it has been really helpful for all the analysts to have this whole picture and not only uh, a little piece of the information that we need to learn for be prepared in this work.
Thank you. So you did mention that you were a graduate academy. That's fantastic. One of the things that I think that always jumps into my mind when we start talking about cybersecurity training is applicability. And I know how that is something about how is the real world technology, real world processes, real world being applied to the training that we're doing. We have Jasmine's with us as well. Jasmine is also a graduate from the academy. So Jasmine, how is CTIS looking at and thinking about training the personnel needed for the next generation CERT?
Thank you for the question. That's right. I was one of the graduate persons from the ERC Academy. You know which is the pensum for this academy? It's like the basis of cybersecurity. Give a second phase for a perspective of different areas of where the people can develop in cybersecurity. And the last one phase is to start focusing on a specific area. So right now, for example, cyber threat intelligence department is driving some weeks with the people that is choosing this specialty, like to knowing how to introduce in cyber threat intelligence. And that's part of what makes difference in the market, like to start knowing what we are doing in the process, what we are doing in the services, and also to give the basis for those people that wants to develop specifically in cyber threat intelligence. And also it's curious because right now in the market we can find an university that gives the career of cybersecurity. So most of the people that wants to introduce on this world finish a career like computer science and then look for a master based on cybersecurity. And those people in that time usually gets a job on development or support, and they never returns to cybersecurity. So ERC Academy get that opportunity for those people when they are in the last years of the university, and that was my case, to prepare in cybersecurity and to start working in cybersecurity after to finish college. So it's a big opportunity for the people to get introduced in the file and to give more talent to or the organizations that brings this kind of service to the world.
No, I mean, I think that a couple things that you said there piqued my interest, and the main one is the specializations. So in some cases, even in the U.S., college courses are they're getting more and more, but they're not really in the specialized and hands-on training areas. They're mainly about philosophy of certain things, about the fundamentals and process and so on, but getting actually interaction is critical to being successful. And the ERC Academy does a really good job at that. I think if there were other academies and other college programs that were allowed to be driven by security practitioners, I think we would have and be able to close that gap in terms of the shortage of people. So we started off this growth discussion with trained personnel. So training the personnel to come in. I want to flip that to talking about the talent that may already be in place, right? So when we talk about growth, we talk about growth not only from an organizational standpoint, but from a per person standpoint, because our people are the most important piece of this puzzle that we're talking next generation CERT. So when I start thinking about skills and education, I have a thought process based on my experience, but I'm curious as to find out what some of you believe. So for the next generation CERT, Esmeralda, how are certifications playing into the skill sets for the people in the next generation CERT?
Yeah, it is very important because, as you know, the cybersecurity world is rapidly evolving and is creating new developments, and the technological advances are occurring every single day. So to make sure that the team skills are up to date, the certification helps us to confirm that the team is master on the latest essential abilities and providing to the current and the future. Right? So first, I thought we need to have a good baseline of the fundamentals of cybersecurity, and we can see all this information like certification, like Security Plus, or the certifying cybersecurity or certified information system security professionals of the ISC 2 Square, or also we can saw other academies like SOC analysts of the EC Council. But I believe that a very important step for taking a certification or going for what I'm going to do, not because it's not only to take a course or take a certification, is that we need to identify which is the path that we want to choose based on the different specializations or cybersecurity, and also what are the skills that we need to learn and develop on the different areas of the CERT. So it is very important to develop a roadmap to help us to guide team members to mastering in the response techniques, abilities, and to the general knowledge of the baseline of cybersecurity. But I believe that the key difference for a next generation CERT is that we need to complement the traditional knowledge or the base information that we have for different specialization with some very important topics that previously you have been talking, like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Because right now we are addressing challenges that requires cybersecurity professionals to not only leverage or defense, but we also need to continue refine the algorithms and models to detect aversion to machine learning and artificial intelligence. And other of the topics that we need to add to this roadmap in cybersecurity automatization, because we need to have the power of the machine and the speed and precision. So we can add the automatization in the part of threat detection, and like Jorge mentioned before, in the response and remediation. So as cyber attacks become more automated, cybersecurity defenses must evolve to match this space, right? And we have also the expansion of Internet of Things. Sidewarding this sprawling and embrace of Internet of Things ecosystem will remain a formidable challenge. So we need that the team members and all the analysts that work in the CERT can have the complexities, capabilities to secure the Internet of Things devices, and not only to basis on product. We need to make sure that we have all covered, like networking, transmission, storage, and the life cycle of management. And you will ask why this skill, right? It's because of the cybersecurity challenges that the world has been facing in the past years. So we have learned about these techniques that in the threat that we are monitor and that we are reaching on these times. So we need to be prepared with all of this information, and also, like I mentioned, the key to be the difference and to going for the next generation is to add into, for example, a forensic or a cyber threat intelligence path, these topics. So it will help us a lot to make an improvement and to innovate how we are learning, and also how the team is preparing for these new opportunities in the market.
Thank you for that. You mentioned a couple of things in there, and one of the things that stuck out to me was you talked about the path of training or a roadmap. Right, and one of the things that we have to continue to look at is not only, what kind of a endpoint is or a validation of that path of training is, but the actual path of training itself. So, Diego, when I think about some of the skills that are required the next generation CERTs, how are you looking at training for those skills, and what may they be?
Okay, thank you very for the introduction. Yeah, focuses on training is essential to prepare the next generation of CERT. Our professionals are challenging to involve in cybersecurity landscapes. For this reason, we are looking to keep them in constant training, focus on different areas, and that deep understanding on key concepts such as advanced threat analysis, that they can perform in-depth analysis of sophisticated and evolving threats, understanding their tactics, techniques, and procedures to effectively respond and mitigate them. Also, like Jorge and Jasmine talked before, the machine learning and AI understanding. Threats become more automated and sophisticated. So we need train our people in skills in utilizing machine learning and artificial intelligence for threat detections, anomaly identification, and predictive analysis will be essential for the future. Also, the part of incident response and forensic strike skills to including containment, eradication, recovery, all this will learn, along with digital forensic capabilities to investigate incidents and breaches, will be key to continue be crucial. Like Jorge says before, this is evolving. Then we are going to call it IT with AI forensics, because the best areas that hackers are involving and using like things like ChatGPT to strong their attacks or automate it. So the script kiddies are evolving in a certain way. So in this part, we also are involving in threat hunting. Our professional skills in proactive threat hunting, actively seeking out hiding threats within network and system using advanced analytics and investigation techniques. These skills give us a lot of more things like threat intelligence analysis, can process and analyze threat intelligence feeds to understand emerging threats, attackers' profiles, and global threat trends, and also do the part of reverse engineering, experts who can reverse engineer malware and deceptive behaviors to understand their capabilities, origin, and potential impact will play a critical role in identifying and mitigate their threats. Also, our analyst needs coding and scripting will be essential for developing custom tools, automating tasks, and performing data analysis. In this part, I'm going to mention 4 things that are very important in next generation CERT, that it is adaptive learning, the ability to quickly learn and adapt to new attacks, techniques, tools, and technologies will be essential in staying ahead of constantly evolving threats. The part of leadership and management training as a new generation CERT, we are growing in complexity. Leadership and management skills will be necessary to coordinate team efforts, allocate resources effectively, and make strategic decisions. The continuous learning, a commitment to continue learning and staying updated on the latest threats, trends, and participating in relevant trainings and certification is essential to remain effective in the rapidly changing cybersecurity landscapes. And also, and finally, is out that global perspective as a threat transcend borders, having professionals who understand international threat landscapes and have cultural awareness will in changing the next generation CERT ability to respond to global incidents like political attacks, like when we have, for example, this 1 year old already of the attacks of Ukraine and Russia. That's a political attack, and the cyber threat, those attacks are very growing in complexity, and many attackers are learning. So we need also involved in that part. But not technical knowledge is enough in its own. Effective structural design is crucial to engage the analyst and drive home to key concepts. Learning objectives must be defined clearly. Training content should be well-structured, and appropriate methods like lectures, hands-on labs, and simulations should be chosen. So, but this is not a list. For example, we also need soft skills, but that's the way on my perspective.
That's interesting. I think that from a technology standpoint, I mean, it's great for specialization, it's great for hands-on, but you mentioned one thing at the end that is critical, I think, and that's soft skills. Danny, how do you think about soft skills when it comes to CERT, and how do you think, excuse me, how do you think people should be trained or get training in soft skills?
Well, as we face growth, it becomes more important to adapt to change, and that needs those some mentioned soft skills. And at the beginning of this conversation today, we discussed some of the facts which are around the drivers, and one of them, which is people, and so-called innovative mindset. And we talked about being open to change, embrace creativity, think big, show courage, and think and act fast, just to recall them. But also, we have to cover that depending on the job role that we are pursuing for specific individuals and for the position that we are trying to cover in our teams, we need to select those specific soft skills that we need to have on the people which is joining the team, and the ones that we need to grow on them actually. And as I said, it depends on the specific job role, but the most common ones that we will usually look for are communication. That's one of the most important things, that we need to have strong communication skills. Listening, which is part of communication. We want to have people which is able to speak the less and to listen the more to the needs that the other people has. And planning skills, we need to have people which is able to organize their stuff, to see ahead, and plan the activities that they have, and mostly for people which is leading teams. Time management is something that we need to develop on our teams. That's something which is very important in order to cover the needs that we face in our internal projects, and also for what our customers are expecting from us. Our teams also need to have a strong problem-solving capabilities. So that's something we usually evaluate when we hire people. And important is also to have and to take a look on how people is able to focus when they are on their activities, and what are their analysis capabilities. So those are the things that are the most common and the most important, as I could say, in order to look for and to achieve. I mean to pursue for achieving operational excellence in our teams. So,
I think that's a great list. I mean, I'd like to add one additional one, and that's empathy, right? Sometimes when we get into technical fields, or highly technical fields, computers and technology don't need to be empathized with. We as dealing with customers, and Danny mentioned it, depending on what role you have in an organization, but I still think this is regardless of a role or not, is empathizing with people in a position. It's a big challenge sometimes, especially with highly technical people, to get them to learn how to be or look at any situation from multiple aspects and empathize with someone that's sitting opposite of them or has a defensive opinion of them. But in order for a growth mindset, that's still a very, very critical soft skill that I don't think a lot of people have in the industry right now. So we've talked about a lot of things here today, and I appreciate everyone's time. When we talk, and this is my team, when we talk of next generation in everything we do. And the reason we talk about the next generation is not just because it's a destination, because it's not. It's a journey, right? Because that land or that horizon continues to get the same distance down the road as far as we move down the road. In order for other organizations and other, your organization out there to continue to move towards that next generation, you're going to need to continue to adapt, predict, and execute at a rate that cybersecurity has not seen before. Jorge had talked about it earlier, but I want to emphasize it there. Cyber risk, the things that we do, the protections that we have within our organizations is business risk, and it needs to be tied back to that business risk, because the threat landscape is evolving at a rate that's unprecedented in modern times. Our threat adversaries are bigger, faster, meaner, and we're going to continue to lose if we don't adapt and innovate at the same rate, if not better than they are. Innovative technology like AI is accelerating those threats from months to days. There was an example here recently that a well-known person in the AI field basically said in 2022 at the RSA conference that he didn't believe that a generative AI could be weaponized in any more or less than 5 years. In 2023 at RSA, the first thing he said when he was on stage was he took that back because it had been weaponized in actually less than a few months. It's more important, based upon that information, that we build capabilities upon sound professional methodologies. But it has to include people, process, technology, and then it has to support the prevention, identification, and eradication of threats. I want to thank everybody that joined the call today. I hope those that are listening in the podcast enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and listen to other great podcasts produced by SysApp. Thank you very much. And you guys, I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too, Derek. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. See you.